Therapy is a little like dating. You might read someone's profile, think they're a good fit, but the first 10 minutes of talking to them, you get a feeling, this person isn't for me. So I always recommend doing a free consultation, talking to that person to kind of get a feel for, do you think that they would be able to help you? Now, part of this has to do with their specializations, their background, but it also has to do in some ways to their style and personality, and if you just feel connected to them. There's that verbal and that nonverbal bit that's really important. So here are 7 questions that you should be asking during a consultation to make sure that someone's the right fit for you. The most important question is, do you have experience working with individuals with my concerns? Now, you might not frame it that way. You might say, let's say you're going for anxiety, do you often work with people with anxiety? Or, what percentage of your practice is individuals who are struggling with anxiety? You want to work with someone who works with what you're dealing with day in and day out, who is specialized and trained in that, who understands what are the best types of treatments for it. There could be a really excellent therapist, but if they are not specialized in what you are working with or what you are struggling with, they're kind of useless to you. For example, I happen to think I'm a pretty good therapist, but I wouldn't be a good fit for someone with borderline personality disorder because the best type of therapy for someone with BPD is DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. And I am not specialized in that. I've learned a little bit about it. I've gone to, a couple hour training, but I haven't worked significantly with DBT, and therefore I wouldn't be the best fit for someone who is experiencing borderline personality disorder because I cannot provide them the evidence-based care that they deserve. The second question, jumping off of them, of the evidence-based care, is what type of therapy would you do with someone with my concerns? If I started therapy with you, what would be your approach? What kind of therapy do you do? Let's say someone's coming to me with panic disorder. Well, the top evidence-based therapy is interoceptive exposure plus in vivo exposure. Interoceptive exposure is basically helping people become more comfortable with the physical sensations of a panic attack, and then helping them reclaim their life by going out and doing exposures with support in a very structured way in the certain areas of their life that maybe have triggered panic attacks in the past. So there's an evidence-based, they've done tons of research and this is the therapy that works really well. So you want to have an idea of, can this person share or explain the type of therapy that they would do instead of like, we just talk about things, which is not super helpful, and also why friends are not a substitute for therapy. Once you've identified that someone is qualified to do therapy with your specific concerns, the next question that you want to get at, and this is kind of question 3 and 4, is really tailored to their style, their approach, their personality, and would that work well for who you are and what you respond well to. These questions are, number 3, what is your therapy style? What is your approach? What are you like during session? And then number 4, what does a typical therapy session look like? There are some people who like things that are very structured, who like having worksheets for homework assignments and all of that sort of thing. It helps them feel like they're being productive. Other people like a really kind of someone who's like warm and the conversation just flows. I'm a little bit more direct, if you can't tell that already by my personality. I'm really goal-oriented. We're focused on understanding the patterns that you're getting stuck in, developing skills for breaking those patterns, and then moving forward with your life. So not just working on the internal stuff, but translating that to then making actual change in your life. I can be a little direct in therapy. I might call you out on your BS a couple of times. I might throw a timeout sign to just slow us down a second and be in the moment. But I'll also tear up with the client when we're dealing with something difficult. I'll slow down and sit in a moment and make sure that that person's okay, or pull them to a pause when they're trying to rush through something really difficult. But I'm not the right therapist for everyone. I've had clients transfer out and go to a different therapist because maybe I was too young for them and they didn't feel like I could understand their concerns. Or, I did have some gaps in my knowledge. The person realized, but early on in my career, I didn't have enough awareness to know, I was not the right fit for this person. And there are many reasons that you might transfer to a different therapist. So if you can ask these questions now, you can get a really good feel of, is this person the right fit for me? The 5th question, is how frequently would we meet? What would you recommend? What is typical for what therapy in the course of therapy would look like? Some people, if they're doing a certain evidence-based treatment, they have a certain time range, but most people, from talking to you briefly, the therapist will hopefully ask you to explain a little bit about what you're going through so they can answer your questions appropriately. But they'll usually give you a range. So typically someone with insomnia, we might meet weekly for the first 4 to 6 sessions and then translate to every other week. And usually we see each other for about 10 to 16 sessions. Just kind of making that up, but that's usually pretty accurate. Maybe 8 to 16 sessions. Whereas someone who's dealing with severe trauma or complex trauma, that might be a much longer course of therapy. When I was going through PTSD and depression, I met with my therapist weekly for a year and then every other week for another year because I was in a really bad spot and I needed that level of support and that level of care to be able to get back to work. I was out of work at that time and really not functioning at all. So it really depends on what your situation is, but that therapist should be able to give you an accurate estimate. Obviously, when you get into therapy, things can change a little bit of how long therapy should be. Number 6, you should already have some of this information from the research that you've done, whether on a directory or their website, but what is their session fee and do they take your type of insurance? I would always double check with your insurance company because sometimes they can be sneaky and have lots of weird rules. So just you clarify that they will actually be paying for part or all of your therapy. But asking these questions can just double check what maybe you've read online and make sure that they would be good fit for you financially. And the final question, which I think is the most important question for you to ask them, is do you think that we'd be a good fit? By this time, you've been talking 15, 20 minutes, that person should have a pretty good idea of if you're the right fit for them. And if they say no, I want to be really clear that it's not because they don't like you, but it's because based on their expertise and based on what your concerns are, they know that they wouldn't be the best person to be able to help you. Usually, they'd be able to give you a referral. They'll explain a little bit why they wouldn't be a right fit for you. If they don't give you a referral, please ask for one. Do you have anyone you would recommend who would be a better fit? But please know it's not because they're rejecting you or they don't like you or anything like that. It's really because they don't think, based on their experience, that they would be the right fit for you. And then a bonus question that if finances are a concern for you, if you're in a position where you cannot afford therapy or you're worried about affording therapy, is asking, do you offer sliding scales? You can share a little bit about your financial situation, about your concerns, and it doesn't hurt to ask if someone does offer sliding scale fees. Many therapists do, some therapists might have you kind of prove your income, others just if you ask for it, they will give it to you. Other therapists don't have a sliding scale fee, or they have it, but I'll give you it at this rate for 6 sessions, and then after that you have to pay the full fee. But it doesn't hurt to ask. And then after you do all of this, the most important thing is to ask yourself, do you feel comfortable with this person? Do you feel that this person understands you, is talking to you with respect instead of talking down to you or making light of what you're experiencing? Do you feel like this is someone that you could trust with some really difficult emotions and thoughts and feelings? Because at the end of the day, while therapy can be uncomfortable, you want to feel to some extent safe and secure in the person that you're working with, because you might be working with them for a bit and you're going to be sharing some personal and vulnerable things, and you want to know that this is someone who can help. And if you have multiple consultations, it's okay to tell them, I'm talking to another therapist on Thursday, but I will get back to you on Friday to let you know if I wanted to schedule or not. You don't have to lie to them. Therapists know that you're consulting with lots of different people. I actually think that's a good thing. It means you're going to pick the person who you feel is the best fit for you, which research shows is an important factor in what your outcomes are. So there's no reason to lie about that or to schedule a session and then cancel it. You can just say, let me think about it, or let me get back to you, or I have all these other consultations. Let me reach out to you by X date, and I will let you know. And then just please do follow up, even if you just send a quick message and say, hey, I met someone else who I think might be a better fit, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Thank you so much. We're not offended. We're not upset. We appreciate it. And that way it just makes sure that they don't keep following up with you and bugging you. And if you want to know how to get the most out of therapy, make sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be posting a lot more videos about what to do when you're actually in therapy. All right, let's get started. the population that I'm gonna call you out and your that's a bad way to start it.